In today's episode, I'm thrilled to welcome Roy Coughlan to the show. Roy is a seasoned entrepreneur, podcast coach, and host of six successful podcasts. Yes, six, four of which rank in the top 0.5% globally. He's helped countless individuals launch and grow impactful podcasts. Roy is going to break down podcasting for us, covering everything from why you should start a podcast to how to get started, even if you're a complete beginner, and the exciting trends shaping the podcasting landscape right now. Roy, welcome. It's fantastic to have you here.
Thank you very much, Wisdom, for having me on the show.
Yeah, and with your incredible podcasting experience, I feel that you're the perfect person to guide us to start.
Like the main thing is, I'm delighted that you're actually doing it and you have a mission to yourself as well as sharing it with the audience. But a lot of people, they fear starting a show and they think that you need to be really technical and you need a load of stuff and you need really expensive mics and things like that. And that's not necessarily the case. You can start off very cheap. You can buy a mic even from a Yeti for like about $50.
Yeah. Well, before we go into some of the questions I have lined up that I want to really ask you, and would love to get your feedback on. I'd love for you to walk us through a bit of your own journey into podcasting. What initially drew you into the medium, and what were some of your early experiences?
So I went to an event a few years ago, and it was like, "What's your quest?" And I had lost everything in the financial crisis, and saw so much corruption. And in the quest, I kind of said to myself, "Okay, I want to expose this corruption. I want people to understand it." And there was public speakers there at that event that were brilliant, and I hated public speaking. So when I came back to Poland, I joined a Toastmasters, then I joined another, and I just became good at public speaking. I entered all the competitions, I got into the final of 5 countries, and during that journey I went to another event and there was a guy teaching you how to podcast, and I was like, all right, I'll go to this and I'll see. And I thought, okay, I can do it. And I always wanted to do about the exposing and everything, but I didn't want my first podcast to be that, because I expected maybe I'd be censored or shadow banned or attacked. So I said I'll learn the trade first with the speaking podcast, and I started that 7 years ago. And because of the Toastmasters, I had a load of people that were actually coming to my house, and I was interviewing, or I was doing online stuff as well. And that was the first one, and I kind of developed from there. Then did a meditation, I learned Polish, then I did the awakening. Next one was the crypto, and the crypto was basically, I saw so much scams, rug pulls with crypto, but I didn't want to incorporate it into my awakening podcast, because I said not everybody would like blockchain technology. So that's why I created the crypto. And my latest one is called the Podfather. It's podfather.me, and it's to help people like yourself that are existing podcasters or people that are thinking of starting, where I'm giving all free tips, because I prefer people to be listening to a podcast instead of listening to CNN or BBC or a lot of these media, because they're all regurgitating lies, and it's better to get your information from podcasts.
Yeah, that's true. You made mention that you started with the speaking podcast, even though when you originally got introduced to the medium, your first thought was to start with the podcast exposing corruption and the likes of it. When you started the speaking podcast, did you, because for most of my audience, they have this thought in their hearts that they're not good enough, they don't have what it takes, like they need to learn more. Did you ever have that thought, that limiting belief?
I didn't, because when I started doing the Toastmasters, I started reading a lot of books on how to become a better speaker. And then at the time, it's a different system now with the Toastmasters, but at the time you could do a 10-page manual, a 10-book manual of speeches that were connected. So I was doing communication, I was doing TV. So I was being interviewed in front of a room full of people. I was either the TV host or I was the guest, and I was doing all these different things. So when the time came, I think I had done so much preparation. And I basically, when I was in Toastmasters, if a person was just too shy and decided they couldn't speak that night or they didn't turn up, I'd say, I'll speak. I was hosting the meeting. A meeting could last for 2 hours. I just took every opportunity to speak. I done over 100 speeches. So by doing that, I was prepared when I started going online and even doing in-person interviews. It didn't faze me.
Hello, I'm sorry. Someone called me on my mobile phone, so it interrupted the connection.
Well, that's the thing as well. When you start off, there'll be so many different things that will happen.
Yeah.
And you make a checklist, and then you go, all right, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Like I used to have a sign up, and then I take out the batteries of the doorbell. In the end, I just removed the doorbell because you can easily forget that. People might have a fan night, be interviewing people, and they have the fan night. Tell them to turn it off because it's getting picked up. Now you've got
Yeah,
a lot of enhancements for the audio that they can take these things out. But
yeah,
before it wasn't that good. But yeah, you just learn. I mean, you'll go
yeah,
back and listen to earlier episodes. I mean, I listened to earlier ones and I kind of cringe, but at the time they were good. People were listening, and you just get better and better, and you start learning all new techniques. So don't
yeah,
expect to be the expert, but what you should do is just start studying, looking at people,
yeah.
learning from other people. What way are they doing it? How can I get better at this? And if you've got something that you don't like, go away and try to read a book on it or watch YouTube videos and just learn or listen to podcasts that talk about the skill set that you need to acquire.
Yeah, so true. I feel like my life exactly is not, podcasting is something that is being introduced. The systems, the habits, the routines, and everything is not exactly designed for a podcast. And it's over time that I'll get to incorporate all those little things that after a while it just becomes normal.
Yeah. What I do is I have like an Excel sheet, and I track everything, but I also have system. I'm constantly looking how I can reach, because I mean I've got 6 podcasts. I get out a lot of interviews. Sometimes I can do over 10 interviews in a week, and
Wow.
you'll hear a lot of people, they have, say, one interview a week, one podcast, and they throw in the towel because they say it's too much work. And I think they spend too much time doing the editing and trying to get everything perfect, and they
Yeah,
don't spend time on the most important thing. I mean, obviously you need to
yeah,
have the interview and prepare the questions, and just that you have a good conversation, but you also have to do a lot on the marketing. And when you do that, then it makes it more exciting, because even if there's only 10 listeners, you just track it, and then
yeah,
every week, okay, and then it goes up, and you go, what did I do that made it better? And you're looking at, say, if you're doing on the video and stuff like that, that you're just constantly tracking keywords and titles and thumbnails, and don't try to do everything at once at the start, because that's what happens. A lot of people, they go on 15 different platforms and they're trying to be everywhere. Better to find what you like and get very good at one, and then build from there and have your systems in place with how you're posting and when you're posting, and then go on the next one. Instead of going on 20, then you feel overwhelmed. And then that's why I think a lot of them throw in the towel, because they think,
yeah,
"Ah, this isn't working. I've only got 2 viewers," but you're not engaging. Because most people, when they go on social media, everybody's selling. Listen to my podcast, buy my book, get my
yeah,
coaching, but they're not giving value. So you
yeah,
have to, when you're on a platform, engage, give a thumbs up, give a like, connect with someone, and then they'll return that. And just even someone might see your comment and like your comment and go, "Ooh, I like how this guy thinks." And then they might just check out your profile and see, "Oh, he's a podcast. Let's check it out." And it's all stuff like that. But most people, what they're doing is they're just thinking it themselves, and they're just throwing it out there like a shotgun approach, instead of being very specific in how you do your marketing. Like everything I do, like, because when you learn marketing, it's not just you're learning marketing for a podcast. Because if you become a coach, if you have a business, no matter what you're doing, marketing will always help you. So if you learn how
yeah,
to do the
right.
copywriting, if you learn and buy books on that, or start watching videos, or start listening to podcasts on marketing, because don't just listen, have a notebook and make notes of exactly, okay, he said do this, and not everything will work depending on the business. But
Yeah.
by doing that, you have a way better chance then of increasing your audience.
Yeah, I think you made a hint about the next question I wanted to ask, how you have a system that tracks everything, and but I'd like for you to like expatiate, how did your approach change as you launch much more podcasts?
So my system is an Excel sheet. So I keep it simple, and I basically make the list of all the different shows I have, all the video channels I have, how many episodes have gone out, and what the downloads are. So it's giving me the averages. And I'm just
Yeah,
constantly trying to increase the averages. Then I've got the followers as well on the different things, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, the whole lot. And I'm trying to grow it. So I have, if it grows by 0.5%, I put it a yellow color weekly. If it's green, it's 1%. And if it's 2%, then I do it purple. And I'm trying to get as much purple as I can. And that's kind of, by doing that, I'm looking and I see, oh, this hasn't moved. Why? Oh, I forgot to post it on, say, BitChute or something like that,
yeah,
or I didn't promote it. There's times you get sidetracked and you forget to actually share it around the place. And by
yes,
watching your numbers, I'm not saying that you have to go in every hour and look at it. Once a day is enough. But you go in and you're looking at what's going on, and you realize, okay, and even have it like a checklist as well, that, okay, interview is done, share it. and where you're sharing it, and sharing it at different times. Because sometimes people, they do podcasts, they share it once on Facebook for the whole week, and then they do the next one. That's not
Yeah.
how Facebook works. People listen at different times. And then if
Yeah.
you're putting it on different platforms, share the different platforms. And that way
Yeah.
then people are seeing a different picture. And I always try to have a creative picture as well. It makes a difference, because you're
Yeah.
trying to grab eyeballs. And, if you just have because a lot of times people, they'll have a podcast and they'll have an image of themselves with the title, say, and it's the exact same image. So if you go into their YouTube, that's not going to grab your attention. Even though it looks nice,
Yeah.
it looks professional.
Yeah.
So you need to be thinking what grabs your attention.
Yeah.
And what do you look at? Why do you look at that? What podcast is grabbing your attention? What YouTube video is grabbing your attention? And then try to replicate that and start looking at it. And when you start tracking everything and looking at everything and not just accepting, oh, this is it, this is my numbers. You have to go, why are my numbers, say, 10 or 20? What can I do to grow it even just by 10%? Because sometimes people, they're comparing themselves with all the big boys who've got massive teams and massive budgets, hence why they get millions of downloads. And if you're a solopreneur and you're on your own, you just have to be very creative, but don't just live in hope. You have to have a strategy of exactly how you're going to do it.
Yeah. Recently, I had an interview with I think Matthew, and he talked about as much as he tells people what to do, he also tells them what not to do. So before we even go into the growth strategy, monetization, production, workflow, or how you organize your podcast, I would like for you to share some of the things, some of the misconceptions people have about starting a podcast.
Well, one is people think they're going to make a fortune. A lot of people don't make money from it unless you have a plan of how you're going to do it. So
Yeah.
I tell any of my clients that I help start the podcast, don't just do this willy-nilly and try it for 3 episodes or 10 episodes and then think it's not working. I get people commit to a year at least. Just say, all right, I'm going to do this for a year, and try to be systemized, that you're not putting out 3 episodes in 1 week and then nothing for a month. If you can keep it regular, because the listeners then are expecting it. So that's the thing. And just expect the time. Some people can, like, we provide virtual assistants, so we help people create shorts and even post. And so some people can actually do that. They can just hire someone to do a lot of the stuff that they don't like or they don't have time to be doing. But if you're doing it yourself, just kind of schedule, okay, this podcast is going to take me X amount of time. And what are you going to give up for doing that? Because a lot of people, they come in and they want the exact same life and they want the exact same thing they're doing all the time. And they think that by just doing a podcast, you're just turning up for half an hour or an hour and that's it. And there is people that do that. They don't prepare. They don't ask, they just come in and they just chit chat. And if you want to actually get into the top of the charts, you need to be different, stand out, have really interesting conversations, have a few curveballs. I don't attack. That's not my style, but I know some podcasters, that's what they do. They attack their guests. But I wouldn't go on shows that are people just attacking you. To share the love, not the hate.
But you even say one thing, they give you like 5-7 questions, and you're like, oh, oh, okay, yeah. Very important. Okay, so we talked about what's misconceptions, that as much as we want to podcast, we should be willing to ask ourselves, what am I willing to sacrifice in order to get this thing I'm looking for? What's the trade I'm willing to make in terms of time, resources, and otherwise, right? Yeah. The most important thing, because when I saw your profile on Podmatch, the most exciting thing for me was like, I'm struggling to like balance one podcast, and here's someone who is doing not just 6 podcasts, and he's doing them well, right? They are like, in their own respective regard, they are doing excellently well. And I'm like, I think I need to like interview him and talk to him so that I understand how he managed to put things together and organize them, how he managed to even grow them to the extent where each one can say, okay, they are serving their audience. So at this point in time, what are some of the go-to growth strategies that you run to every time you start a new podcast, or you're coaching someone to start a podcast?
A lot of people, and I'm asked a lot of times for this, people are kind of looking, what's my secret sauce? Because I've got them all in the top 5%. Currently, all of my podcasts are number 1 in like Ireland or Poland. They're in the charts every day. I'm constantly in the top of the charts, UK, USA. So you'll find them in the charts. Everyone thinks, okay, it's just this. I need to do this and I'm going to do it. Sorry to tell you, but that's not how it works. And Yeah, see, I know by your voice that you were just hoping I'd give you a magic button to press. But the magic button is not difficult. The magic button is that one. The first thing that I think is the most important, and what I tell all my clients, you have to have a very good conversation. Because no matter
Yeah.
how good your marketing is, you only get so far if it's not good. So you have to make sure you're well prepared. You do everything as professional as you can. You have the great sound quality. And if you're doing video, that you have a good camera, good lighting and everything. But because what happens is, if this quality of sound is bad, and there's a load of people who make this mistake, they go away and they just put it out there and they just assume. And if I'm listening to a podcast and it's terrible quality, I'm gone and I'm never coming back. And just assume you would be the same. So just remember that your listeners, if you're putting it up, like I saw one the other day, I'm in a group, a WhatsApp group, and somebody said, oh, we've just launched our podcast and blah, blah, blah. And they put out the video. And because I don't know them personally, but I know the group that we're in, I went in and I looked at the video. And their video that they put up on YouTube basically was them preparing, having a laugh and a joke, and then said, oh yeah, we'll press record now. And they put up the unedited version. So that means they didn't do their, and lots of people do that. I remember when I started off first, not only would I be editing, taking out all the pauses and the ahs and the ums, then I would play it again before I uploaded it to make sure that it was okay. So at the start, I spent a lot of time. I'm gone to the stage now that I don't take out that. I kind of record it raw as it is. But when I'm editing, I'm making my show notes and I'm doing it at twice the speed. Hence why I'm able to get a lot of stuff done. But I'm also watching him in the odd time there could be an internet connection. Like I had one there now last week, and 2 or 3 times it just froze. I could put it up still as it is, but there's no way I will, because I'm not doing my guest a service, I'm not doing myself a service, or the listeners. And I have to go in. It's going to take more time, that I have to find the exact points where it froze and there was a big gap and take it out. But by doing that, people get good quality video and audio each time, instead of just winging it and going, this one is bad, it doesn't matter, I just get it out. You're hurting yourself. So don't half-ass do anything. You have to put as much quality every time. And if something happens, like there's sometimes people, your listeners will come back and say something, we all make mistakes. If something happens, then make sure that doesn't happen again the next time, if there was something that happened. And just pay attention to the whole lot. And at the start, when you're early in the game, have your checklist and have it in front of you and make sure you're checking it off, that everything's okay. Yeah. Once you're doing it for a while, it's like driving. You don't think about it. But at the start, you're panicking about everything. Same in podcasting. And then the numbers will come. Just be consistent and give good quality.
Yeah. I feel like, most people don't want to hear what you just talked about, because that stuff is not exactly fancy. It's not the exciting thing, that everybody talks about. But at the end of the day, the podcast we make is our own product, right? And it's more like you're just starting out. You don't yet have a product market fit. So you're still tinkering with the podcast to make something that, that's valuable to the audience. And at some point in time, the question I want to ask is my podcast valuable enough that someone will recommend it to their friend to say, there's this podcast I listen to. There's this guy. He talks about this stuff. You should listen to it. The guy is a great guy. He talks about great stuff too. That's like the metric we should be aiming for. And recently, as I started my podcast, there's something I've been looking at. I've been asking myself, how can I increase the value per minute? And then you talk about editing and how to cut out stuff and all those things. And I feel like there are some videos and podcasts I've watched, I've listened to, that sometimes I'm like, it's 15 minutes, and I'm like, wow, I thought that stuff was 10 hours. Stuff was so impactful, so much value in that 15 minutes. How did they even do it? And then there are some 2 hours stuff that I watch that I'm like, no, that stuff is just terrible.
What I would say on that, and it's something I'm really conscious about, and it's the same in a book. I reckon a lot of people waffle. They just talk for the sake of talking, or write for the sake of writing. I'd rather read a book that's 100 pages of relevant information than a 300-page book that I have to extract. And it's the same with a podcast. Don't be like, a lot of people come on and go, hey, what's the weather like today? And they're 5 minutes. I'm gone. I don't care if he's in Canada and the other guy is in New Zealand and they're talking about the weather and the sheep looking in the window. It's not interesting to me. I'm there, if it's a health podcast, to learn as much as I can about the health. And don't just make sure always, like I always think of the listeners. So even sometimes someone will say something to me, And I know what it's about. I understand it. But I know that the way that it was said, that maybe the listeners didn't get it. And then I'll just repeat it in a different way. Just say,
Yeah.
this is
So
what
you
you meant,
understand.
so that you're getting the listeners to actually be on board. And you just
Yeah.
always remember, just think they're in the room with you. And
Yes.
you're making sure that everybody, because like it's different when you're speaking on stage, because you can actually look down and you can see if you've got baffled looks that they didn't really get
Yeah.
what you're saying, and you can say it again. When they're listening, you don't get that, but you can just assume there's people on different levels, and don't just make an assumption, because sometimes people, they'd say like code words, like AHU, air handling, depending on the industry. So if they're throwing out things like that, you might even know, but just to say it so that the listeners aren't lost, because if they're lost, then they're not enjoying it as much. And just
Yeah.
always think of them.
Yeah, and I think you for most people that are wondering, you can find. I think most podcasting platform, they would give you a way to see like your listener retention data, so you can see how long where your listeners drop off when they listen to your podcast, and you can go to your episodes and listen to that point and say, well, what happened in this place? What was I saying? Was I talking about an ad for too long, or was I just doing some mindless babbling at this point? What exactly was happening that the graph just went down? The data is there, as much as as long as you're getting listeners, it's there. One thing I also want to tell you, I want to follow up with what you just said. You said that most of the times we have to ask the questions, and that our listeners will understand. And I feel that sometimes we are too out of touch of the people that we are making content for. And I feel that as a beginner, we should just find a way to like find someone who you think would be your target audience, friend or family that you feel that would have this problem, and ask them and talk to them. That way you get to like see them. And sometimes some of the things you think that they value, you just realize that they don't really care about that stuff.
I mean, if you bring somebody that you're comfortable with, it's a good way of learning as well. Whether it's a friend, a cousin, or something like that, some business that you can bring in. But I just want to go back on what you actually mentioned there with the analytics, because it's very important, and it's something that I do all the time. So I can go in and look at each episode, and I can see the drop off rate. And I'll give an example. One time I had a guy, and he had a business making bars from bugs. And that's a kind of hot topic at the moment. People are disgusted with it, or they're on board for it. And I said, all right, I want to get this because I think this will be a good one to grab people's attention. I don't know, was he after just getting up out of bed, or was he about to go to bed? But he didn't bring his A game. He was like just too casual. It's like, if you're interviewing someone and they don't even want the job. That's the way it kind of seemed.
Yeah, I
And
don't really care.
I didn't enjoy it, but I still released it thinking, it might be all right. And I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Because when I looked at the analytics, it went down to 8%, and then just kind of, so that was a massive drop off. I've got some shows that they'll go at 100%, they stay across the board. So you just track it. And the other thing is, like, don't be doing what you think is nice. So by your YouTube, by your interviews, you go, wow, people are really interested in this topic. So then bring on more people relevant to that. If you're watching the numbers and go, wow, I get double, triple the amount in connection with this. So for me, like with The Awakening, I started learning about sovereignty, common law, and all different books that I read on that. And I realized there's a lot more people now getting used to that, because they realize the fraud is going on. So I ensure that I do at least one a month on that, and sometimes more, where I'm covering that topic. And it gets the most downloads. It's like on YouTube, it gets way better than the other ones. So I make sure that I serve the audience that are interested in that as well. And sometimes people, they do what interests them and not their listeners. So pay attention to comments, what people are writing. And if you look after your audience and start engaging with them, they become fans for life. And that's what you want, true fans.
Yeah, I think we want to provide as much value to the extent that our listeners, they recommend us. And I think for me, as I'm looking at podcasting, right, as a beginner, I'm looking at podcasting. I see that the two most important things in podcast growth is showing up consistently, because podcasting is one of those things that it's part of people's routine. Once people like your podcast, they listen to your stuff once it comes out every time, right? It's not like YouTube or Twitter or the other forms of social media, right? And once they like your stuff and they subscribe, they listen every time, right? So the question is, most people, they post, and then they get some listeners, and later on they stop posting. And then the funny thing is that people would just replace you with some other podcast, and they move on. And by the time you release again, it's over, and you starting from scratch again, and you want new users, but you don't have a system to to keep the users you already have? How are you making the podcast good enough that they keep coming back to listen to your every new episode you release?
And the thing is, when you're watching all this stuff, like I give an example, my Polish one, it was running for 5 years, and I have a co-host, and then they set up a different business, and they were no longer able to do it. And I started trying to reach out to get another co-host because I wanted to keep doing it, but I couldn't find somebody with the same energy and everything. And I've just found it now this week. Somebody I had asked, they weren't ready to do it, but they've now agreed to do it. But the way the numbers are working, I'm getting more downloads now than when I was actually putting the show out, because it just keeps growing and growing and growing. It's like I got like over 40,000 just on the audio alone on the Polish podcast.
Wow.
And then I got the videos. I got something like 2.5, 3 million total with that channel.
Wow.
So the thing is with podcasts as well, they keep growing. Sometimes people come in, they like your style, and then they'll go back and they'll binge watch it. And you know, people think that, okay, I got whatever it could be, whether it's 100, whether it's 1,000, whether it's 5. But eventually, as it's building momentum, there'll be people going back the whole time at the start.
Yeah.
And the numbers will just keep chugging away. Like, the one thing I would say to whether they're existing podcasters or new, like if you go into a room and there's 20 people turn up, you're going to be delighted to talk to 20 people in the room.
Yeah.
And people don't think of that when they're seeing their stats. They think, oh, there's only 20 people listening to my episode.
Yeah.
Like, you should be proud that there's 20 people that are actually coming in listening. Like, no, I got massive numbers, but I mean, it just took, like, it took me 3 weeks to get the first 100. I remember, you know, going around the Toastmasters, hey, did you listen yet or whatever? And then when I got to the first 1,000, that was another milestone, and 100,000. But when I got to 1 million, it was kind of like, it was no longer about the numbers. It was just making sure that you're serving and everything. So it's good to track it and watch it, but don't make it about the numbers, because the numbers is like more the ego. Once you're connecting with people, if a conversation can change somebody's life for the better, and it's only one person that it reaches, you would have the conversation because you go, we've just touched somebody today. And just think of it like that, you know, you can give so much value on a show that helps somebody, and stop thinking I need to have 10,000, 1 million downloads per episode or something like that, because there's very few people doing that. And just once you know, so even if there's like, say, the 20, and they're coming back next week and coming back, some leave and then more, and then you grow up by just like 2. If you go up to 22, celebrate the 10% increase. You know, don't think, celebrate the wins. And if you see yourself getting into the charts, share it, you know, be happy with it, and not just go, wow, I've often been like Zimbabwe, I've been number 1 in Zimbabwe, and it's like, wow, that's incredible, and I share it, you know, I share it with the Zimbabwe. I know the meditation one as well is in a load of African countries, and it's brilliant, it's fantastic, you know. So it's like, but make sure you share it when that happens.
Yeah, for me, I'm just like, I'm trying to imagine, like, when you start making the podcast, you didn't even think that, oh, I'm going to Zimbabwe, but now you get to impact and touch someone's life in Zimbabwe. That's incredible.
I'm not sure which one it was. Most of mine are in over 100 countries, but I don't know, was it the Awakening or the Speaking? It's in 154 countries. Which, when you think of it, it's incredible. And like, I'm with Spotify with a few of my podcasts, and at the end of the year, they give you the statistics.
Yeah, Spotify Wrapped. Yeah.
Telling me how many I'm their number 1 podcast. That's such an honor. Like, hundreds of people, I'm their number 1, or I'm a way bigger number than I'm their top 5, and a massive number again, I'm their top 10. But, you know, like, I really appreciate that. Like, for me to go, wow, I'm actually somebody's number 1 podcast that they listen to, you know, and it's just appreciate things like that.
Yeah, for me, I feel it's a privilege that I feel like, as much as we want to grow, if someone is listening to our stuff over and over again, it means that there's something we're doing, right? It means that they consider us valuable enough to listen to our stuff, because they have so many options. And the fact that they chose us, it's a privilege.
Absolutely. And, you know, once you think of your listeners every time, it's the most important thing, because without the listeners, there's nothing. You're just talking to your computer and into a microphone. So always kind of respect and appreciate the listeners. So
before the drop off, I was saying that being number 1 on most people's platform is a privilege. I mean, there are so many podcasts and so many people they could listen to, but the fact that they chose you, it's a privilege, and it's something that shouldn't be taken lightly.
No, exactly. And I mean, I just share it with the flag, and just, Or as soon as anyone writes to you, I don't outsource that. I make sure that I connect with people. So I'm listening to the comments. I understand what they're doing. And, I even say on my shows, look, you don't have to agree with what I say. But as long as the comment isn't abusive, I
Yeah,
leave it up. You can be totally disagree with
exactly.
everything I've just said. But as long as you kind of explain your point of view and maybe give sources to
Yeah,
it, it's all good. But if it's abusive, I just remove it or report it, because there's no, you don't want to be doing. And I think this is an important one, because I've seen so many people kind of give up in podcasting because of this. There is a percentage, maybe 1%, maybe even less, I don't know, but there's some people out there that their mission in life is to write horrible comments
yeah,
and be nasty. You could have 100 comments of people praising your show and being nice to you, and just how much it's impacted them. And unfortunately, what happens is when 1 or 5 different people write in something nasty, people spend their energy on that, or they'll engage in a conversation with somebody who can be AI or can be just somebody with no friends, no nothing, and don't fall into
yeah,
that trap. When somebody writes something nasty, report it, delete it,
yeah,
ignore it. But do not engage in
yeah,
the conversation, and don't take it to bed with you, and don't make it upset you. And what you do is make note of all the, like, even copy all the
yeah,
nice comments, put them onto a Word document, print them off, and when you're feeling the blues period, or if somebody's just abused you on your podcast or whatever, go out and look at all the nice comments and concentrate on the positivity, and don't give them the energy. Because if you engage with somebody who's negative and you start fighting back, then they'll make it their mission to
yeah.
keep attacking you. So don't give them fuel. Don't put
Yeah, I
petrol on the
think
fire.
there's this quote by Seth Godin that, sometimes at some point in time, you have to just realize and say that my podcast is not for everyone. And that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Like, that's the thing. People will find your styles. Like, the people will come in and everything. But yeah, it's all okay. That's why there's all different. You can have hundreds of meditation podcasts, and people find the
yeah,
style that
yeah,
they like, and it's all good. You
yeah,
can't
no, no,
be
no.
everybody listen to my meditation
No, no,
podcast,
like
because it
at
doesn't.
the end
Yeah.
of the day, you end up serving no one, because then you're just everything and everyone, and people don't really see anything. You don't stand for anything. The question I want to ask you is, I want to look at your production and your workflow process, right? The first question I want to ask is, do you like have a team or virtual assistants that you use that help you to do some of the process in podcasting?
So I started a few years ago with the virtual assistants, which I created. I have a company that's doing that now, so I help other podcasters kind of have the virtual, and it's just for the
Sorry,
shorts
sorry.
and
What
posting the
what's
shorts. But
what's
everything else
the
I do
company is yours?
myself.
VA dot
va.world.
okay dot what? Okay, so
World.
it's open to the
WORLD.
rest of us, right? Okay,
Oh
that's
yeah,
that's
yeah.
okay.
Everyone, yeah. And what we do is we kind of do it differently as well, because a lot of times people would be, they might be working on with people in Fiverr or Upwork, and usually they have a load of problems, because people will tell you they can do this, that, and the other thing, and then you're spending so much time to make sure they're actually working for you. And with Upwork, you get screenshots, and I mean, I've tried it for a long time. There was, people can send you the screenshots, and you think they're doing all the marketing or they're doing different things, but I think half of them probably have another computer and they're just making it look, because I was like, what exactly are they looking at that screen all the time for? So what we do is we obviously, if people want an hourly package, they can do it, but we usually do it on a kind of basis. Okay, we're going to create so many shorts, we're going to post it to so many different platforms for X amount. We start off at $99 because we want to cater for everybody. So we like, the cheapest package that we have is $99. And then kind of like a $300 package, you get a decent service where you're getting a lot of shorts and posted on the different things, which in turn allows you to spend more time to be kind of interviewing people and creating better content. And definitely the shorts help. If you have shorts, they help a lot. So my process is I prepare anywhere from an hour up to 4 hours, depending on the guest, between watching videos and everything, and have the interview. Then I do enhancements. I make sure the quality is good, upload it, but then I spend time marketing it as well. So I'm sharing it around, or I get my team to share it as well. Engaging in the, with the social media. That's what I do. So you can make sure that you set aside so much time. So if you're doing one show a week, it's not just say, okay, this is my day, I'm doing it. And what I would encourage people is, when you're doing, say, putting up the video, and put them all out at the one time, so that you're just cutting and pasting title, show notes, and then you're either just putting up the audio or you're putting up the video, but everything is done at the same time, as opposed to, oh, I'll get around to that later. And when you kind of have systems like that in place, you're ensuring that you're getting more content
Yeah.
out faster.
So what you're saying is we should like batch the task, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So for most of not all your podcasts are interview, and not all your episodes are interview podcasts, right? So for the interview podcast, right, I would love for you to like walk us through how you find guests, probably what you used to manage and track and keep everything, because you have 6 podcasts, and for me, for a lot of persons, that's a lot. And sometimes some things
Yeah.
you might just forget that, oh, I'm supposed to reach out to this guest for this podcast. Oh, I forgot that. And like a lot of things going on. So how do you like make sure you keep your hands on the pulse of everything?
Well, I mean, because my podcast is successful, I get lots of pitches. So people are reaching out the whole time, writing to me and asking, to be on the show. And then there's platforms. There's a few different platforms. I mean, we connected on Podmatch, which I've done a few episodes on that on my podfather.me podcast. So I'm explaining, it's a good platform, but you have to do it right. Like you have to fill in the different things, make note of when the interview is going to be, click that you've done it and then do the release date. So they kind of reward the people that do the system properly with their algorithm. So it puts you up in the charts and more people get to see you. So, using a platform is actually, is very good for doing this. But I have like a lot of forms that I use that once it's gone out, I'm sharing it with my guests and I'm just keeping track. I use a notebook. I'm a pen and paper type of guy. So I have a copybook for every single podcast and I make notes of all the stuff. I even created a planner. I have a planner on Amazon where it's kind of helping people. It's got kind of show notes and timestamps and things like that. Things to help you to be able to interview and make notes of what was important. So that whether, even if you're sending that to a team to create charts with. But yeah, writing everything down is how I do the
So
whole system.
my takeaway from what you just said is the fact that when people are trying to manage or do project management for their podcast and everything, they should try as much as possible to use a platform that they're comfortable with. So if it's paper and writing that it's comfortable for you, you should use that. And if maybe you're probably good in Notion or all this fancy software, then you could use that. Would I be wrong if I say that?
No, exactly. Excel. I mean, like you can use an Excel system where you're writing, the name or CRM system, and you're writing the name of the guest, where you're getting what's the status of it, but don't put it up to memory. You might think at the start, I'm only interviewing, one person a week. Before you know it, you'll be trying to, you forget who the person was, what you talked about and everything. So just make sure that you track every single day. You write it down, whether it's on Excel, on paper, or in a platform, but you know exactly where it is, when it's to go out, if it's been posted, because you can easily forget something or it could slip through the cracks. So once you've got some sort of system that you track, everything will work in sequence.
You're going through the process, right? I'd love to nudge the question again, but you talked about you showed us some of the tools that you use Podmatch for reaching out to people, and then being the fact that your podcast has been around for a long time and you have a lot of listeners, a lot of persons pitch you to come to your podcast. So instead of reaching out to people, what you just do is you filter people out to say, okay, this is a good guest that I'll have on my podcast. So what I would love to know is, I would love to know your tool stack, right? Now, I know you use Podmatch. The last time when we talked on the meeting, you made mention that you use Zoom for recording. So can you like walk me through the tools, the softwares, and the gear and hardware that you use? That's the mic and all those other things.
Well, I use Audio Technics mic. So yeah, that's a USB connection one. So that's the one I went. And I've played around with acoustics, ring lighting, different lighting. It's there's a lot. It would take hours to actually talk about the whole kind of system in software and things like that, enhancing. But the thing is, like when I'm taking people through the whole process, what I'm doing is I'm doing it step by step. And I cater for their pace, because some people are like A players. All right, done. Let's do the next one. Let's do the next one. Let's do the next one. And some people, they want to make sure everything is right and perfect with them. They might take a week to do something, and that's okay as well. I cater for that. But there's like some people think that you can learn everything in half an hour or an hour. You can't. Like there's a lot to it. I mean, I'm 7 years at this, and I'm still learning. I'm still going away. I'm watching others. I'm watching courses. Now I'm spending a load of time on YouTube. I'm like, I need to figure out the YouTube thing, because I got one video that gets 21,000, and that don't, they get 20 or 30, and it's like, I need to try to figure out this. I know it's search engine optimization, and there's tools that you can use for that, and it's just a case of don't overwhelm yourself. So you just have to kind of start on one, like I would say, get the audio correct, make sure distractions, noises, and different things like that, get that right, and then go on to the next one. Because so many people, they want to do the 50 things and then never do
Get
one right.
overwhelmed.
So I have evolved over the years. I've just got better and better. I mean, at the start, my lighting, it wasn't great. Acoustics, I've used this mic from the start. I've got a spare one as well, just as in case, but it works, but I cover it. So I have a cover for the mic because I think the dust can actually damage a mic. So every time I'm finished recording, I put the cover back on the mic. And I think that's a good tip for people to be careful of, because or have a reserve just in case. I have a spare camera just in case my camera starts failing. I've got a few lights, so even if one, and it happens, some of the ring lights, they just go, and it tends to be the plug, because I'm okay at electronics, and I've got a soldering iron, and one of my ring lights went, and I couldn't figure. I said, what's going on here? I took it apart and I couldn't figure it out, and it turned out it was actually the plug that you put the USB into. And it's happened me about 3 times. So I don't know, does it happen with someone else? So now I know why it does that.
Yeah.
I don't know. But so, just to have spares, because what you want, you don't want it that you have a brilliant interview and, there's something, your mic breaks or your lighting is gone or something, and the person could be really popular and you mightn't wait 3 months to get them back, or they mightn't want to come back. So expect the unexpected. Have backups for everything.
That's so true. Like the moment I stopped video podcast, the lighting I was using, for some reason I just connected it, and after 5 minutes the thing just went off, and I was like, what's happening? Like, I was like, wow. So if I had actually been using this stuff for interview, that's how you just disappoint me. I was like, wow. So I see. I have to put some systems in place such that no matter what happens, I still get the stuff done.
I even have a backup internet. Wow. I've got the internet from the house, and then I've got one that plugs in that's next to me. So the odd time the internet goes down, I have a backup.
Yeah. But I mean, it wasn't for most of the things, the gears and everything you have, it wasn't always like that. But you started with what you had, and then over time you just kept investing into the podcasting, and now you have so many stuff, and it's as if that's how it has always been.
Yeah, and I just pay attention to everything. And I mean, sometimes I get existing podcasters coming on, and they're kind of plateau, and they think, I don't know what's going on, what's wrong, and they think they know it all. And I've had clients, they can't believe, they jumped in, and I get them into the top of the charts, top 5% or whatever, and they just get so much more engagement. Because unless you're paying attention to this area and watching it and connecting with the right people, there's so much to learn. It's not difficult, so don't be fazed by, this is too hard. It's just knowing what to do and having the systems in place. So there's a lot to learn. It's not, but once you know it and you start applying it, your numbers will go, your connections will grow, and you start getting into the different charts.
Yeah. I'm moving on to asking you about monetization and business side. But before then, I'd love to know what's the frequency of each of your podcasts. Like, how many times do you release episodes for each of the podcasts?
They vary. I tried the crypto one a week. The awakening can be anywhere 2, 3 sometimes. The Polish one, which when it was sequenced for 5 years, I always had it going out Monday and Wednesday, and I think that helps. And I tell my clients to do that, to try to stick to a certain day, because your listeners are expecting it. So speaking, I've got such a backlog. It's just more, I could put out one every day if I wanted. I could even put 2 or 3 out a day, and I still have enough in the reserves for it. But what I do sometimes, especially with the awakening, is I allow a few days, because what you don't want to do is put out a brilliant show and then just throw it another. Because I know some people, they do 1 a day. There's one guy who was on the show, I think he's doing 6 a day or something like that, or even 10 a day, because he's trying to get 1,000 a month. But the thing is, people aren't going to listen to that amount of shows. Yeah, he can say, I've done 1,000 podcasts, but there's no way his listeners will be massive, because you need them to listen and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Even if you do 1 a day. I know John Duma from Entrepreneur on Fire. He
Entrepreneur on Fire. Yeah, I know Johnny Duma.
Yeah, but honestly, I don't rate him as a good podcaster. I mean, I've listened to his interviews. I don't find him a good interviewer. Patrick David, to me, is one of the best interviewers. When he's not with the team, when he's on his own, he's a fantastic interviewer. And you can then just find different people and look at them and just kind of go, what are they doing? How are they so engaging in connecting? And then just watch. Like, you can put at the start of your show a point. So when a guest comes on and they say something that's like, that's interesting, some people, they're cut that and put it at the start. It's work, it's time, but it's not difficult.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you do that, it helps. It'll get more listeners. But are you going to do that? So if you're watching the different things and paying attention to other people, you can do 50 things like that. That will definitely help. But are you going to do it? And you want to do it? And so you have to decide what things you're going to do. But what I would say is start slowly and build it to the level that it's not feeling, you're not overwhelmed. So I've done that with one of the clients. I knew the level of the information I was giving. So I'd give, like, say, 3 points and then make sure that they had that system in place. And then I go to the next one, never going, here's 10 points, because people go, that's too much, and they'll do nothing. So you just make sure. And that's when you're doing it yourself, you just figure out, okay, what am I trying to achieve? What am I trying to do? Whether you're adding your podcast on, 30, like I give my clients a schedule of 30, 40 places to go to, because most people don't even know they exist, but they're places where your podcast could be listened to. So why not do it? And, there's so many different things like that. Is it difficult? No. Does it take time? Yes. So everything is like that.
Yeah. I feel that, as much as we talked about consistency and putting the podcast consistently, that we also have to look at the cadence that allows us, based on our work and every other thing, that allows us to give good quality, right? To balance quality with consistency. So for some persons, they might have a full team that edits, that finds, okay, they, like, when they think of a guest, like, oh, they like, I want to interview, you talk about Patrick Bet David, I want to interview Patrick Bet David. There are people who have team who would reach out to Patrick Bet David, who would reach out to, like, they would, there are people who have those team that would do those things. All they need to do is, okay, I need to do an interview with him, and they'll reach out to those persons. And all they need to do is, okay, do the research, have engaging conversation, and there is someone whose job is to edit the podcast, and they're pretty good at it. They'll cut out all the nonsense out of it and make it really, really valuable. And then there's someone who will post it, and then there's someone who, will do distribute, market, and do everything. Theirs is just to, have engaging conversation with your guests. But then sometimes we compare ourselves with these people, and we don't really see what's going on behind the scenes.
No, exactly. And it's brilliant if you're able to start off and you can hire, you can have the virtual assistants and you've got the editor to do it and create all the bells and whistles on the video. Will it help? Absolutely. But if you're doing it on yourself, just do it slowly and then try to see, how I can actually make money that will cover the cost. So initially reinvest into it. Okay, if I can make some sponsorship, or if I can do something to make a few bucks, that will cover for, say, creating the shorts, which in turn grows the audience and then gives me more money. And just kind of look at it like that. Go in with okay, I'm going to play with this for a year. This is how I'm going to do it. This is the kind of services I'm going to offer. And, because you're touching on the monetization. And like one of the best things you can be doing really is your own services. So, like, for example, I do the virtual assistants or the coaching and stuff like that. That's what I talk about. I mean, they're the things that I want people to, if they're interested in my services, to get. So if you have something yourself, it's a great way of promoting your own business. So for those thinking of starting, if you've got a business that you can actually be advertising, you can advertise your business on your own show. So that's one way of monetizing. There's obviously sponsors. Some people, like, there's different ways of the sponsorship. Sometimes people say, oh, you get $10 to $40 per 1,000, and then there's like at the front roll, mid roll, end roll. It's time. There's some platforms they actually digitally insert it, and you don't have to worry about it. So it's just done automatically. But not everyone is getting tens of thousands of views. So you need a lot of views to get the money for that. So not necessarily the best way of your time, but it can be. It's another way of actually making money, and you can do product placement. There's a lot of different ways of making money. You just have to think of what will serve you, what will serve your market. There's no point in having some sort of product from, say, America, and you don't have listeners in America. That's not serving anyone. So you need to know where your demographics are and look at your analytics. Okay, I've got 60% female, 50% from the USA. Then and you can reach out to some companies. Then you might do, say, for the meditation, but you could do yoga mats or whatever it is. And just pay attention to where the people are, because it has to be a win-win. If they can actually make money from your audience, they'll continue to do it. But if they're just kind of taking a flyer and they don't make any money, they're not going to do it. Another way of making money is affiliates. So like the Podmatch, That's that covers a lot of the costs with that. That's a great way of doing it. I think your man Alex, the founder, he's really created a fantastic
Yeah.
system that's helping the podcasters.
Yeah.
So, and there's other, like I create, like with all my businesses, like the brain gym, that fitness, the podcast, the coaching and stuff like. I've got affiliates for that as well, because I'm happy if people are out there and they're getting customers from me, because if I'm going paid for paid ads, I'd rather give it to somebody that's actually mentioning it on their show, or
Yeah.
they're doing it to their audience. And so that's another way. I mean, I've often, like, I had a guest on that was doing how to win in court, and got plenty of sales through that. Just hit the link and the money comes in automatically monthly. So, but it's easy to do, easy not to do. So, same thing,
Yeah.
But
Easy to do, easy not to do.
sometimes people think you start off and you're going to get affiliates and everything. But if you've got 10 listeners, you're not going. So the first thing to be doing is, make sure good content, get it out there, build, make sure you're getting into the right places where people would be listening to you. Don't be going into Facebook groups that's full of podcasters, because everyone is like going in with their podcasting group trying to sell to podcasters.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Does everyone is guilty of that? And it's like, just find where would the people be that would be interested in your show and go there.
Yeah. And then ask
And
them
that's
questions.
how I've got a load of things. I just kind of, like my Polish one, I go into the groups that are for Polish people, foreigners in Chicago, Polish in the UK, in Ireland, and 50 groups. It takes time to post it there, but it's got millions of downloads. So is it worth to do that? Yes. So you just have to put in the sweat equity, and the numbers come.
I feel like my biggest takeaway from what you've said so far is what you have to do is basically look at all the available techniques and the methods in which you could grow your audience, and look at how much time you have, how much money you have to spend, and ask yourself, based on the resources I have in time and in terms of money, which of this growth strategy will I do that will give me the best return on investment, and then just pick that one and go on with it, rather than trying to do 70 things and you don't have the time, and everything is just subpar. There's nothing that is quality, and at the end of the day, you don't even get any results.
Exactly.
Yeah. One question I just want to ask you is that podcasting is changing, and you're one of those persons that you walk the talk, right? You're not just someone who's like, oh, I want to teach you guys how to podcast, right? You've actually done it over and over again. So it's not like the first time. It was just lucky, you understand? You did it the first time, you did it the second time, you did it the third time, and there's a pattern. It shows that you know what you're doing, and you've helped a lot of persons do start their podcast. You've coached a lot of persons, and even have a company that helps that has VAs for. I mean, one of the things I like about the VA, when you were talking about the VA award, is the fact that you pay people for the results instead of the time. Because I've always hated the idea that you track people's time. Because for me, I don't really care how much time you spend. For me, I'm like, okay, I need this result to get done. I just want you to get those stuff done, rather than you spend 6 hours and then I start paying you. Yeah, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what people do. They go, I'm getting X amount per hour, I'll spend a day doing this. When a good person can do it in half an hour. So why should the person that does it in half an hour only earn half an hour's wages?
Yeah.
Compared to that's, so the best thing is get project based. I think, especially in the podcasting world, I mean, we do website design, we do a lot of different things, editing, production. So it all depends on what you're doing. You know what you're getting. Everything is kind of written down, and that way you're not, because a lot of people's time is wasted by, like, is that person doing what they're saying they're doing? And then you get stressed, and you're not enjoying the process, when it's simple to go in and go, okay, yeah, it's on Facebook. I mean, yeah, do things happen where something might be amiss, but the way we actually do it is we're constantly tracking it, and we're looking at it, and we're making sure there's people overseeing the people as well. So it's not just, that you're dealing with the person, you're dealing with a manager kind of person as well. So we're making sure that if there is a hiccup, it's resolved immediately. Whereas most of the time when you're dealing with somebody, you give them a few chances, and then you go, I'm not dealing with them no more, I'll get another person. And you're back to day one again, where you're trying to explain exactly what you're doing, and then you're worried about it. Like, so what we have is a lot of people that are kind of worried about the passwords and stuff like that, because, there's scammers out there, there's fraudsters out there.
Yeah.
So we have an office, and it's only my partner has the passwords, but they have the access to the computers. They can't go in and do anything. So no matter what, even if they're, if they don't work out, they can never damage the person's social media, because we want to make sure, I do it like it's myself. Nothing has ever happened any of my channels, and everything is safe. And I want to make sure that for all of our customers that it's the exact same way, that they feel safe, they know that they're protected, but at the same time, it's done in such a professional way that it's grown their audience, which in turn, you get the views, and we have all our kind of strategies of what will actually work, how to click it, follow up things. So when we're growing our customers' listeners and they make more money, then they're getting more services from us because they realize, hey, this works good, and it's a win-win. So it's in our interest to make sure that the clients are actually making more money, because why would you be just spending money and not getting any return on investment? So it's always about what we're doing is providing good value for them.
I feel that you understand the problems that most podcasters and business persons face, because you're a podcaster yourself, so you understand some of the fears you have if you were to outsource the work. That allows you to solve the problem really, really well.
Yeah.
Before we round up, is there any tip or you'd love to share with our audience before we round up the episode?
Well, it's don't fear anything.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people fear the technology. It is easy, right? I'm not a technical person, and it is easy. And if you're going on the YouTube and you think everything is difficult till you do it.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of people out there, so I'm always conscious of people's budgets and everything. So I've even got some videos out there where I give a lot of tips on stuff like that. I've got the Podfather where I'm giving loads of tips, all free, because I understand not everyone has the money to be actually hiring somebody to do it. But it's just, if you put in the sweat equity, time to learn, don't think this is too complicated for me, I'll never figure this out, I'll never be able to edit this. I have videos even showing you how to take out the noise, how to do an intro and outro, all free. So don't fear it. If you've got a gift that you can share with the world, the skills that are something that'll make the world better, just do it. Because if you're hoping the world becomes better by somebody else doing it, why not you? Why not you start something and make change?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Roy. Where can people learn more about you, check out your stuff, and connect with you after this episode?
Yeah, so all my social media, my 6 podcasts, my businesses, they're all on roycoughlan.com. And if you want to just go directly to the virtual assistants, va.world.
Okay. Thank you so much, Roy, for coming to the podcast. I really learned a lot.
Yeah, no problem. And what I would say is, for the listeners, how you can help this show is give him a 5-star rating. If it's in Spotify, you just give a rating. There's 3 little dots, you go in and rate it. If it's in Apple, you just scroll down, give a 5-star review, but also give a comment, and it really helps. And then if you like it, if you got value from it, as he said earlier, share it with a friend, because that's how his podcast will grow. He'll get more guests on and be able to achieve his goals.
Thank you so much, Roy, for the shout out. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, take care.
Okay, bye-bye. That's a wrap for today's episode. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might enjoy it. I also document my journey in my newsletter. Join me there for more insights, updates, and behind-the-scenes content. You can sign up from the link in the show notes in the description of the podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, keep creating, keep growing, and keep pushing forward.